3,300 aliens who've committed assault crimes, 4,000 who've committed drug crimes, and hundreds who have been convicted of sex crimes.
Senator Hawley, for your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to both the nominees. Thank you for being here. Mr. Gonzalez, I'd like to start with you, if I could, and I'd like to start with the fundamental question that I've asked other nominees who've appeared before this committee. Do you believe that unauthorized entry at our borders should remain a crime?
Yes, sir.
Here's another fundamental question. Putting aside any resource constraints, whatever they may be, do you think that if an alien enters the country illegally, they should be subject to removal from the United States?
Yes.
Do you believe that individuals who currently have an order of removal should in fact be removed from the United States?
Yes.
If an illegal alien enters the country and is then convicted of a crime, do you believe they ought to be subject to removal?
Yes.
What about illegal aliens who've been convicted of things, let's say, assault, homicide, kidnapping, sex offenses, sexual assault, weapons offenses? Do these illegal aliens, should they be removed from the United States?
In my opinion, yes.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear all of that. I'm asking you because according to internal ICE documents that were released as part of a litigation ongoing between the states of Montana and Arizona and the United States, the Biden administration's new limitations on enforcement could result in the release of convicted felons who are already in ICE custody, including 3,300 aliens who've committed assault crimes, 4,000 who've committed drug crimes, and hundreds who have been convicted of sex crimes. Let me just ask you, if you're confirmed to this position, do you plan to facilitate the release of these criminal illegal aliens from ICE custody?
Senator, in my view, the current guidance that is being offered would make those a priority. I think those are public safety priorities, and so I would make sure that we're working in accordance with that guidance that does permit for the removal of those individuals as a public safety threat.
Well, what the documents show, I mean, again, according to the lawsuit, the documents obtained as part of the lawsuit, is that under the current guidance, these aliens who are currently in ICE custody could well be released. What you're telling me here today, I'm asking you if you'll facilitate the release. I think you're saying no to me, but I just want to be sure about it. Are you saying no, that you will not facilitate the release of aliens who've committed assault crimes, drug crimes, sex crimes? Is that a no?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, will you facilitate the release of aliens who've committed sex crimes, assault crimes, other violent crimes?
If the premise of your question is that it's under some type of legal action that's taking place, I know that part of the guidance included that consideration that there is ongoing lawsuits and other things. I would work in accordance to the law with what I'm allowed to do, and if there's a court order that orders me to remove them, otherwise I would go with the guidance that we have, which allows me, if confirmed as ICE director, to be able to remove them. I see them as a threat. If it's under my authority, I would move to remove them.
So would you make it a priority? Let me ask it this way. Would
Yes.
you make it a priority to remove aliens who've been convicted of these crimes?
Yes, to me, those are serious crimes.
Okay. Would you agree with me that criminal illegal aliens who have, by definition, committed these crimes that we've been talking about, if they're released back into our communities, they are, at least some of them, are likely to be recidivists and to commit other crimes? I mean, I'm sure you've seen this in your own experience as sheriff. Would you agree with that premise?
Yes.
And therefore, it's important to remove them and actually make sure that they are not released to the public. Do you agree with that?
Yes, public safety is always my North Star.
Okay, with regard to the administration's recent decision to effectively end deportation of those aliens who entered illegally prior to November 1st, 2020, isn't this just a free pass for those who have entered, who arrived here over 6 months ago? I mean, I don't understand this. Give me your view. I mean, this sounds like a free pass to me. Isn't this a free pass for anybody who came before November 2020?
The ones that came before, in my understanding of the guidance that's been offered, doesn't preclude anyone still that's here unlawful to not be still removed. So I think that it's still there. I think it's just a matter of prioritizing key areas, and I think that it doesn't preclude anyone that's here unlawfully from being removed, in my opinion.
Okay, good. So you would be, I think you're telling me that you would attempt to enforce the law and to remove those who came to this country illegally in violation of our laws before November 1st, 2020. Is that correct?
Part of the role of ICE is to conduct enforcement operations. I think that those obviously have to be prioritized when we're considering limited operations. and resources. I think that we do that every day. There's a lot of crimes on the books, but it's a matter of trade-offs. It's making sure that we're focusing on a strategic approach that goes after those individuals that do pose the greatest danger to the integrity of our border, public safety, and national security.
But here's my problem with the discussion about priorities. Since this administration has come to office, the number of ICE arrests has plunged. It has plunged. The Trump administration, I think, arrested over 6,000 people, 6,000 arrests per month on average in the final months of the last presidency. There were 10,000 a month before the pandemic. So far, this is according to the Washington Post, by the way, so these are public numbers. So far in this administration, ICE officers have made about 2,500 arrests during the Biden presidency. Now, that's a dramatic drop in difference. It sounds to me like what's being prioritized is not the husbanding of resources. What's being prioritized is not arresting criminals and not arresting people who are here illegally. What I'd like to get from you is a commitment that you will vigorously enforce our laws that are on the books and will make ICE's mission to do so a priority. Can you give me that commitment?
Yes, sir. I am familiar with the article. To me, the one data point, in my experience, I would like to see more data to see what other factors may have played into that to better understand the numbers. It is concerning. So I would make sure, then again, that if we're being strategic and we're prioritizing properly, that we could go after those individuals that pose the greatest threat to our communities. I think that's reasonable and appropriate, but we would be aggressive in going after them.
Let me ask you this. Do you agree with ICE's current policy of requiring ICE officers to receive pre-approval from senior leadership before they make a lawful arrest?
I think that under the priorities that are listed, they do not require any kind of approvals. I think it's laid out that they could still use their own discretion on those. And others, it doesn't preclude them from taking action, but they would have to work in concert with the regional directors, the field directors, to make sure that it falls in accordance with the priorities and that they've looked at other criteria.
Well, with due respect, I mean, working in coordination with before you take action sounds like pre-approval to me. I mean, do deputies in the Harris County Sheriff's Office need pre-approval from you before making lawful arrests?
No, sir.
This is my last question, Mr. Chairman. Just let's give an example here. It's my understanding that these restrictions on ICE enforcement removal operations, particularly the pre-approval requirement, is having a significant impact in the field. I've learned that in one instance, ICE officers requested permission to place a detainer on a subject who's been deported 4 times previously, has convictions of evading arrest, escape, domestic violence, and multiple DUIs. This detainer request was denied by ICE senior leadership. This seems crazy to me. The whole procedure seems crazy to me. Does this seem like a reasonable way to proceed to you?
Senator, in my opinion, hearing that, it doesn't seem reasonable. If confirmed, I would want to understand better about that case and to understand why the local field directors made the decision to perhaps not pursue enforcement action. So I would like to better understand, and I understand your concern.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm over my time. I'll just say in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, that I appreciate your answer, Sheriff. I think they do put you in significant tension with this administration's policies. I'm personally fine with that. I hope that you'll go and enforce the law vigorously. I don't know what the White House will think of your answers, but I'm heartened by what I've heard so far. I'll probably have some additional questions for you for the record. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator.
Ranking Member Portman, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for allowing me to defer so some of my colleagues could get their questions in. Ohio, Mr. Santos is working on redistricting, as you know, incredibly important. I mean, there are people who are thinking of running for office, but they don't know what the districts look like because we can't get the data from the Census Bureau. And it's been a disaster in Ohio, and I'm sure other states feel the same. We have a commission now, and that commission has a deadline of maps being due for the legislative districts on September 1st, and then from congressional districts, the maps plans are due on September 30th. And with no other options, I supported Attorney General Yost's lawsuit against the Census Bureau to get the data, because without the data, we can't draw the lines. And again, literally, people don't know what districts to run in. Constituents don't know what district they're going to be in. And the lawsuit ended up with the Bureau agreeing to provide this data by August 16th. Now, remember, I said September 1st is a deadline, so August 16th is not much time to put together the plan, and that date cannot slip. Can I ask you today, if you are confirmed will you commit today to ensuring that that deadline is met, that we have no further delay in getting the Census Bureau data?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I very much sympathize with the concerns of the state of Ohio in advancing democracy with redistricting. I understand the urgency. I also understand the importance of having accurate information in order to make the critical decisions that drive our democracy. I also understand the timeliness. Timeliness is an element of data quality that it has only relatively recently been recognized as something that's crucial and that we need to take into account when we're developing data products. So I am with you in terms of wanting to produce data by the dates that have been committed to. I have full confidence in the Census Bureau, the career staff, the excellent data processors.
Mr. Santos, so let me
data.
Cut to the chase, if I could, with apologies for interrupting you. I agree with everything you said, but I need a commitment. Will you commit to meeting the August 16th date? That's what I'm asking. Yes or no?
I will commit to trying to meet it as much as possible. I do not have the information right now to know where the Census Bureau is.
Well, it's a court-ordered deadline, and if we don't have it, we can't do the redistricting. So I wish you would just commit today to adhering to this deadline. I mean, that's the least I think that you should be able to do as a nominee for a bureau that has not provided the data needed for us to, as you say, be sure our democracy can move forward by having redistricting on a timely basis. So I'm disappointed you can't commit to it, but I'll leave it there unless you'd like to commit to it. August 16th, that's all I'm asking.
I am confident that the Census Bureau will produce it by August 16th.
But you won't make a commitment to getting it done.
I do not have the information to make a commitment, and it would be irresponsible.
I've just given you the information, which is it's court-ordered, and the agreement is to do it on that date.
That is absolutely correct, and I totally understand that.
Okay. Sheriff Gonzalez, as you know, ICE has a longstanding principle to establish and maintain these partnerships with state and local law enforcement to bolster effectiveness in executing the ICE mission and our country's mission to ensure we are protected by ICE. One of these programs is called the 287G program, which allows trained local law enforcement to partner with ICE to cooperate on removing dangerous criminals from the United States. As Harris County Sheriff, why did you terminate the 287G agreement with ICE in 2017?
Thank you, Ranking Member Portman. For me, I made a thoughtful decision. I considered a number of different factors. When I first began as county sheriff, I was inheriting a budget that was $8 million in arrears. So I had to look at the monetary component of how my resources were being utilized. I think an effective leader needs to look at their resource allocation. Two, that this was a voluntary program, so I was working in an amicable manner in coordination with the local ICE director to making sure what the impacts of my decision would be. And I had to consider, obviously, the local realities as well, and the importance of local law enforcement also working with a diverse immigrant community. I also wanted to make sure that we continue to remain focused on having the avenues necessary to arrest serious offenders in our community that impact our public safety. So ICE has always maintained a presence to this date inside our facility. We work in a coordinated manner when it comes to that. There's never been any issues. I've never declined a detainer.
So this concerns me on 287G. Would you, if confirmed, want to terminate the 287G program? You don't think it works well? You didn't want it in your own county? Would you want to terminate that program?
For me, it was a local decision.
I know my question is, would you want to terminate the program?
That would not be my intent.
You have made comments saying that you would like to terminate, you're proud to have terminated the agreement with ICE. You wish the Harris County Sheriff's Office didn't have to cooperate with ICE as mandated by Texas law, what you were talking about a minute ago. In response to a question about ICE officers being in a Harris County jail, you said, quote, ICE were there when I arrived. I ended the 287G program that I committed to do. We can get away from that. And then you said, I advocated against ICE before. I think it's unneeded, and I think it's a bad law with regard to the Texas law mandating cooperation with ICE. You said if ICE determined someone had previous history with it, then it's ICE's purview. I wish it wasn't like that, but it is. You know, I've talked about this, but I'm just concerned about a potential leader of ICE having these views about ICE and what the effect would be on the morale of the individuals. Do you stand by those statements today, or do you wish that ICE, the organization you are seeking to lead, would receive cooperation from local law enforcement?
Ranking Member Portman, thank you for the question. I do want to add a little bit of context in regards to those comments. That was with regards to a state law, and I believe in local control, and that was being mandated by the state legislature as a mandate on local law enforcement. And I felt that as a elected leader in my county, I best understand the reality on the ground, my area of responsibility, and the experience of working with local communities. And so my perspective on that issue was based, or my comments were focused on the mandate that it was being mandated by the state legislature on local law.
Sheriff, my time is expiring. I'm going to leave you with one question. Please, if you would get back to me on the record. We don't have time, unfortunately, to get into this in detail, but the arrest records, wonder what your view is on that. When the executive order was issued on inauguration day by President Biden saying no deportations for 100 days, no longer an emergency at the border, we saw a huge drop in ICE arrests. During the last administration, from October to January of 2020 to 2021, we had roughly 24,000. I've talked to you about this, and then the February to May numbers we have are about 10,000. It's about a 58% decrease with the same budget in ICE arrests. So if you can comment on that, are you concerned about that dramatic decrease in ICE arrests following the executive order, coupled with, you know, the worst half year we've had in 20 years in terms of unlawful crossings at the border? So I would appreciate a response in writing to that if you don't mind. And again, I appreciate your past service, and for both of you, thank you for your willingness to step forward.
Thank you, Ranking Member Portman.
Thank you, Ranking Member Portman. Senator Hassan, you are recognized for your questions.
Thank you so much, Chair Peters and Ranking Member Portman. Thank you both for this hearing, and to both of our nominees, thank you, and thank your families for your willingness to serve. This is a team effort, and we appreciate you stepping forward very much. I have two questions for you, Sheriff, and then one question for you, Mr. Santos. To Sheriff Gonzalez, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement manages three operational components, including Homeland Security investigations. Homeland Security investigations is a critical component of ICE, responsible for vetting immigrants, as well as investigating transnational criminal and terrorist organizations, cyber crimes, the online and international exploitation of children, human trafficking, and transnational drug crimes. If confirmed, how will you ensure that the Homeland Security investigation's important missions, including its work fighting the substance misuse crisis, continues to be a priority?
Thank you, Senator. All those issues are critically important. If confirmed, I would work very closely with the personnel that's in place to understand that threat landscape and get updates on where we're at, and then trying to see how we could best lead a strategic and targeted response to all of these different challenges that you mentioned. HSI is the preeminent law enforcement agencies when it comes to being able to understand how cartels are utilizing the different migration paths, for example, and taking advantage of others. So want to see how we could dismantle those networks. That would be critically important. And then making sure we're working with our partner agencies in an effective manner to make sure that we're tackling all these various issues, including the issues, as you mentioned, like fentanyl, which is a concern in Harris County for me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, the influx of fentanyl is a critical issue for the entire country, and we're seeing, as you know, a huge increase in overdose deaths. So I would look forward to working with you on that as well. Sheriff, I'm going to follow up with something we talked about the other day. New Hampshire is home to a group of Indonesian immigrants who have lived in the United States for many years. Many came here fleeing from religious persecution. Many of them do not have green cards, some because they were given bad legal advice years ago. They are important members of our community at this point, people who have worked jobs, paid taxes, raised their families in New Hampshire. Under the Obama administration, as long as these individuals checked in with ICE authorities regularly and didn't commit any crimes, they were not a priority for detention or removal, and they were provided work permits. However, the previous administration attempted to deport many members of the community. If confirmed, will you commit to looking into this issue and working with my office to protect this community?
If confirmed, I look forward to working with you, Senator, on that issue. I think it speaks to some extent about the importance of having a prioritized response.
Yeah.
That not every situation is the same,
Yeah.
and that we need some guidance on this. And I think that that's where the prioritization and other factors that may be available would more than happy to work with you on that.
I appreciate that very much, and I look forward to doing that. To Mr. Santos, each Congress, the Government Accountability Office, or GAO, issues its high-risk list, which identifies and helps resolve weaknesses in critical federal programs that are at particular risk for mismanagement or waste of taxpayer dollars. One of the critical programs highlighted on this year's high-risk list is the decennial census, which provides, as we've all talked about, critical data to determine congressional representation and to inform the federal government about how best to allocate its resources. Despite the conclusion of the 2020 census just months ago, GAO already anticipates that the next decennial census will face management challenges such as meeting goals and deadlines for testing new data collection technology, recruiting and dispatching thousands of census workers, and evaluating the accuracy of the collected data in a timely way. If confirmed, sir, how will you work to mitigate these management challenges?
Thank you for that question, Senator. I will work with the Census Bureau staff who has been eagerly and earnestly planning the 2030 census. I understand but have not been briefed on the plans of further incorporating technology, leveraging the lessons learned from the 2020, which was an extraordinary census in almost any sense of the word because of the pandemic. And it was because it was also, the 2020 census was also the first fully digitized operation. There are a lot of quality indicators that can give clues about efficiencies that heretofore had not been available. So it's critical to take a look at those, to analyze those, and incorporate that. And I can, in my role as director, if confirmed, prioritize those particular areas of research so that we can reveal the nuggets of insights that allow us to create more effective operations.
Well, thank you for that. And what I would look forward to doing is staying in communication about the challenges that have been identified, what you believe you can glean from this research and new data, so that we can improve management, but also an ongoing conversation with Congress so that we are preparing to have as an effective and efficient next census as is possible.
Thank you. I would very much like to do that. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I yield the remainder of my time.